Hello, my name is Cameron Young. I am a junior at Virginia Tech, and my major is clinical neuroscience. This is my official submission for assignment 3, also known as the What is your favorite location in the brain and why? So my favorite part of the brain is none other than Broca's area. I will go more into depth later on in this video about why I like Broca's area so much and more about the history of it, but I just kind of wanted this fun little reveal slide to kind of show a nice little picture of it here. So, yeah. Okay, so more in depth for the location of Broca's area. Broca's area is located in the left hemisphere in the brain and part of the frontal lobe in that left hemisphere. To be more specific, it is in the third frontal convolution of the inferior frontal gyrus. So if you look in this picture, you can see it right here. So this area of the brain is not to be confused with another language area of the brain known as Wernicke's area that you can also see right back here in the brain, and that is known to be in the posterior third of the upper temporal convolution in the left hemisphere. Though it is not the same area as Wernicke's area, it is connected to Wernicke's area through special neuronal tracks because they both involve language. Okay, so more information on Broca's area. Broca's area was first discovered in 1864 by a French surgeon named Paul Broca, hence the name. Paul Broca was well known for his contribution to the study of aphasia and the difficulty of speech. So what he would do is he would find multiple patients with difficulty speaking and forms of aphasia, and then would take scans of their brain and study any deformities or lesions that are noted there. So of the many patients he had, I noted 2 right here. I'm not going to try and pronounce the names because no one wants to hear me try that. But this first patient here came to Broca and was only able to say the word tan. And regardless of what he was trying to say, it would come out as the word tan. And when brain scans would be done on them and when these brains would be studied, Broca noticed that there were lesions on the left posterior portion of the frontal lobe. And then this other patient down here was only able to repeat the same 5 words. He was unable to come up with any new words, or regardless of what he was asked or anything, he would only be able to repeat these 5 words. And then when his brain was looked at and scanned later on, then Broca noticed that there were lesions in that same left posterior portion of the frontal lobe. There were many, many other patients with these same problems, and similar to these 2 patients where they would only be able to repeat words, or they could only say these same amount of words and would have difficulty with this speech. And they would all have lesions in the same area of the brain. Therefore, Broca concluded that this location was the reason for those speech difficulties, and again, hence his last name, it became known as Broca's area. Okay, so the importance of Broca's area. Broca's area, along with Wernicke's area, of course, because that's also part of speech, but Broca's area is mainly for the act of speech. So it allows clear thought and speech with Wernicke's area, and with lesions there, it would be called Broca's aphasia, which is where there are lesions on Broca's area, and it can cause difficulty speaking, also known as halting speech. Because of this difficulty speaking, there's something else called anomia that occurs there, where they have trouble finding the right words or phrases that they want to use when they are speaking to someone. Because of this difficulty finding the right words and speaking to someone, That's why they have those pauses, and that's also why they have what is next called perseveration, which is the repetition of phrases and words. Often it's unconsciously repeating phrases and words, and the patients just repeat these words and phrases while trying to think of what they are trying to say, but they are unable to remember the words they are trying to say to others because of the lesions on Broca's area. And then because of this, they are so focused on finding the right words and finding the right phrases to talk to people, their syntax, grammar, and structure can often be distorted because they are not focusing on that. They're focusing on trying to find the right words. Now, like I was saying before, Broca's area works closely with Wernicke's area. And with Wernicke's area, when there are lesions on that part of the brain, they no longer have comprehension. But with Broca's area, even with lesions, they still have comprehension. So they are able to understand what you are saying. It is just very difficult for them to respond properly. So Broca's area is my favorite because, first of all, I absolutely despise the feeling of forgetting words and having the word on the tip of my tongue but not being able to remember it while people are staring at me and like expectant of me to like finish my sentence. It frustrates me very easily, and it's a horrible feeling, and I would like to have that feeling as little as possible. So I am very appreciative that there's a portion of my brain solely focused on preventing this feeling from occurring. Something else I like about Broca's area is the fact that it is so complex for such a small little portion of the brain. And I know, like, I can have arguments with this all day. Like, there are so many complex parts of the brain. The brain in itself is such a complex organ. But I think the area is very complex, not only in what occurs and this tiny little part of the brain being part of something as big as speech, but also being connected with so many other parts and being like part of a fully functioning step in one of our five senses, or not one of our five senses, but our biggest like ability of communication. And that goes to the importance of speech and my appreciation for Broca's area because of it giving us the ability to speak. Because for the human species, for like the human race, the main way of communication is speaking. Like, take this video, for example. If I wasn't talking right now, you would only get the information that was on the slide. And that's not nearly as much information as I'm giving as I speak. So the idea of having speech is so important to the proper functioning and ideal functioning of a human. And yes, there are other ways such as sign language, and they are other ways such as like reading body language, but those involve visual cues. Like, if you can't see me, the best way to communicate with me is through speech and listening to that speech. So I think that Broca's area is very important in that sense. And then finally, these are just a few of the sources that I used. I used the first source just for more information on Paul Broca and what he did to discover this area. And then the second source was to get more of an in-depth anatomical location for Broca's area. And then, of course, the lecture 12 of our neuro class. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.